Hi friends! In our last investigation, we talked about physical weathering, or the changing and breaking apart of rocks. We also simulated abrasion, which is one of the ways physical weathering can take place by banging rocks against each other to break into smaller rocks. Today we're going to move on into chemical weathering. Chemical weathering. Chemical weathering happens when minerals and rocks are changed by chemicals in water and air. The starting minerals change into new substances. Many rocks contain iron. When oxygen in air comes in contact with iron, the iron in the rock can rust. Rust is iron oxide. Iron oxide is softer than other iron minerals. This causes the rock to break apart faster. Carbon dioxide gas in the air dissolves in water droplets. This makes acid. The acid droplets can fall as rain. The acid causes the calcite in limestone and marble to make holes. This is a chemical change. Monuments, buildings, and gravestones made of marble or limestone change and weaken when exposed to acid rain. Salt can cause chemical weathering. Salt water can react with minerals in rocks to make new minerals. When the new substances are softer than the original mineral, holes can form. The weak rock breaks and falls apart more easily. Chemical weathering of a rock containing iron. Chemical weathering of marble by acid rain. Chemical weathering of sandstone by salt water. Now, we've seen that rocks break into smaller rocks when they bang and tumble against each other, or when ice expands and breaks them apart. That's what we call physical weathering. But like we just read, there are other ways that rocks can be weathered. Sometimes substances in the air dissolve in rain, creating a weak acid. Substances get into the air from natural sources like volcanoes, and from human-produced sources, such as car exhaust and factories. Now, in our experiment today, let's find out if acid rain affects earth materials. So for this experiment, friends, we're going to dig into this bag once again and gather the following materials. You will need the 4 vials of vinegar, your hand lens, your earth science journal, and this bag that says minerals and rocks. You're only going to need 4 rocks, and I'll show you those rocks on the following slide. Gather the following rocks from the bag. They should be labeled: limestone, marble, sandstone, and basalt. Set those aside for now. You will also need the yellow Post-its that you used for our soil experiment. Please make sure that you label those Post-its with limestone, marble, sandstone, and basalt. So friends, the first part of our experiment is we're just going to observe the rocks that I showed you. We'll be observing the rocks basalt, limestone, marble, and sandstone. Please make sure that you're observing the right rock. The rocks should be labeled as you see here, okay? Make sure that you get out colored pencils or whatever you have in order to show the color of each rock. Remember, as scientists, we want to be as detailed as possible in our descriptions. So pause the video and make those observations now using your hand lens. After you've made the observation of all 4 rocks in your journal, you're going to label each of the vials with the Post-its in your package with limestone, sandstone, marble, and basalt. Make sure that they're labeled, because if they're not, it could mess up your entire experiment. So, very carefully open up each of the vinegar containers. Once each of them is opened, you're going to take each of the rocks and very carefully drop each one in the corresponding vial. So this one says basalt. So I'm going to find the vial of vinegar that says basalt on it. And I'm going to very carefully drop basalt in the vial. Now, what I'm looking for is a reaction to the rock. Right now, I'm not really seeing much of a reaction, but I can always use my hand lens. Make sure that you're recording on the following page that says rocks in acid rain. Now I'm going to move on to sandstone. Again, carefully dropping the sandstone in the vial of vinegar. Do you see a reaction? If so, write it on your observations. And if you don't see a reaction, please make a note of that too and just write no reaction. Now I'm going to take limestone and drop it into the vial of vinegar that says limestone. Now vinegar is really stinky, so please be careful when you're handling it not to spill it anywhere, especially if you're anywhere near carpet where it could soak in. Finally, I'm going to take marble and put the marble in the vial that says marble. Now, with my hand lens, I'm going to be looking very closely at each one of these vials. Again, I'm looking to see a reaction. So there's the sandstone, the limestone, the marble, and the basalt. Are you seeing lots and lots of bubbles? Are you seeing nothing? Are you seeing a little bit of bubbles? Please make sure that you're making note of that on your piece of paper right here. Now, here's the last part of today's investigation. We're going to cover each one of the vials to make sure that they don't tip over, and we're going to leave them overnight. The next part of the investigation will be to observe what has happened overnight to these 4 different rocks.